to go ASAP. Let me know. Yep. Welcome to round 6 of the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet on Maconi Entertainment. Just 2 more races here this season to close out this series. We take one more step up on the ladder tonight into the very fast and potent Xfinity cars. The past 5 events have produced some incredible racing as well as some moments of mayhem. Tonight we rack everyone up for 200 laps at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the heart of NASCAR country in North Carolina. The 2023 Drivers Gauntlet is a 7-week series designed to emulate the progression of a driver from the beginning ranks of the Legends cars all the way up the ladder system and into the next gens. My name is Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth is Will Tiller. Our producer tonight is Adam Flieger, and the cameras being used have been provided by Dougie Beard. Race control for this event is Brandon Davis, keeping an eye on all of the action on the racetrack. And Will, I know that we're going through the list on the screen here of who's starting out front. Joey Masevich with Guillaume Hainaut next to him. The pace car is already in turn 4 here, and looks like the lights are out. We're going to get to this track info here in just a couple minutes here, and right now we're going to get some racing on the racetrack as the 64 patiently waits to get on the gas into the restart zone, and there's Barney the flagman with the green flag, and off and away we go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Looks like the 64 is able to claim the top spot out front right now, and a little bit of a gap right now separating in the field, but Guillaume Hainaut is still hanging on to the second place position. Jacob Reeves in the 57 there in the third spot is got to look at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, that 1.5 mile oval that we all know very, very well here, as well as the air temp, track temp, everything going on. Kind of warm out there. 106 degrees on the track, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, but right now on the racetrack, we got side-by-side racing for what is the second place between Guillaume Hainaut and Jacob Reeves.
Yeah, pretty big battle right now for second, taking place right off of corner number 4. Looks like Guillaume's going to get the better of that right now in that 68 machine. Going to make it lap number 3, going down to corner number 1.
Yeah, lap number 3, and I know that we were a little bit rushed here on the entry, Will, but going to be doing 200 laps tonight. None of these drivers have any fast repairs available to them, so if they pick up any damage out on the racetrack, they're going to have to live with it out there. And at a place like Charlotte Motor Speedway, where the speeds are pretty high, you don't want to get any damage on these race cars. And something else to consider, 3 green-white checkers to potentially close out this one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Right now, tonight, Joey has a 64 machine. Joey Masevich takes us off of corner number 2. Still our race leader, but we have a battle for third brewing up right now, Joey.
Yeah, side by side there between these two cars. That's Blanca Gonzalez and Jacob Reeves. And Will, we haven't seen much of this 58 car here in this series, and looks like got some pretty good speed under it. I know that this is the beginning part of a 200 lap race, but that black and green 58 making some moves early on.
Yeah, pretty good speed right there in third, but also has Jacob Reeves right behind them right there, going to the inside, down the backstretch here on lap 5, going down to 3.
Pretty calm. The other one that's moving up to the high side, I see the 39 trying to poke his way out, and gonna see a few ebb and flow differences throughout tonight with how this race takes shape, and going to see some pit stops, maybe see some yellow flags out there. I mentioned Brandon Davis. We have race control, keeping an eye on the incidents that happen, and Will, you as well as I know that some of the incidents in iRacing, they can trigger unnecessary yellows, so it's nice having that race control up there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Keep an eye in the sky, if you will, of the race here tonight, Joey. But early on, lap 6, not much going on the racetrack for race control to pay attention to here on lap 7, going down to 1.
Yeah, look at this. Guillaume Hainaut trying out the high side of the racetrack on our leader, Joey Masevich, and actually is able to carry that momentum off of turn 2. Is going to take the lead going down the back straightaway, and looks like Blanca Gonzalez has the same idea. He goes to the top side of the racetrack in 3 and 4, and wow, look at the speed that the top side produces, and really able to carry that down the straightaway, but Joey Masevich fighting back on that lower groove.
Yeah, Masevich right there on the inside in that 64, holding that line right there to the 68 as we come off of 2. Still, Joey Masevich leading the way in the 64.
I wonder how long they can keep up this side-by-side close racing as the 58 tries to tuck under Guillaume Hainaut there and doesn't quite get the job done. It actually opens the door here for Jacob Reeves in the number 57 car, and I think that's one thing we're going to see all night here, Will, is that if you have the momentum, you try to attempt a move, and it doesn't go according to plan, you might have to look in your mirror, see who's coming up.
Oh yeah, right now if you look in the mirror, you see a single file going down to 3.
Here is Guillaume Hainaut in second, still holding off the side-by-side battling of Blanca Gonzalez and Jacob Reeves behind him. How long do you think they can battle side-by-side? Just as I say that, the 57 slides up the racetrack, but thankfully no contact between the two.
Yeah, still side by side as we head down into 3. Guillaume still in second though, as now the 58 machine goes to the high side.
Yeah, high side indeed, and 10 laps in the books, now working 11 laps, and 58 still seems to be the most aggressive car on the racetrack. Now, Will, I want to bring you back in here. Now, we know it's 200 laps. Do you like the aggression right here off of the beginning, or do you think you want your driver to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more mindful of the tires underneath them?
Yeah, probably a lot more quieter on the racetrack, a lot more calm, if you will, here 11 laps in this race. Got a long race tonight, Joey, here. It's a little early to be making too much noise. Got to keep it down here and then maybe fire it up towards the end of this race.
Yeah, and gonna have to fire it up indeed, whether that's the barbecue, whether that's the energy, whether that's the speed. Fire it up all the way around, and Guillaume actually slides up the racetrack right in front of the 58. Thankfully, was clear of the nose of that number 58, Blanca Gonzalez. As that was a pretty close call there going into 3.
Yeah, pretty close call indeed. Right now is Guillaume right there in the seconds under fire from that 58 machine as we come off the corner.
And since things have settled down just a little bit out here, I know that they're staying side by side for what is the 4th place, but we didn't get to read through the grid early on. So, Will, what better chance right now to read through some of these names? And looks like it's Joey Masevich, our current leader out front, started on pole, hasn't given up the lead yet. Guillaume Hainaut, one of our points championship contenders, following him there in the 2nd place there. You get a shot of Guillaume in the number 68 car. Then behind for the 3rd place, we actually have 3 wide battling. It's Brandon Evans right now taking over the 3rd spot in that number 39 car. Then comes up Jordan Corrin in the number 8 machine, and Jacob Reeves rounding out that top 5 currently, Will.
Yeah, jumping to 6 right behind Jacob Reeves in that 57 machine. We look at Blanca Gonzalez in that 58 right there. And we also jump to 7th right there. We look at the 7th machine. I believe that's Roberts right there. Harbert's in that 7th position right there. That's Jacob Harbert's in that 80 machine. We look at the 8th position. That's Dakota Bro right there, riding in the 8th spot. We look at Jeffrey Maconi, the boss man himself, up to 9th right there in that 03, rocking a pretty unique paint scheme here tonight. And then 10th right now, just changed hands. It's now Carson Lucas, rounding out our top 10 in that 88.
Well, you mentioned it. Carson Lucas in that 88, taking away that 10th spot from Kyle Wisner, who's now in the 11th place position in the number 42. Got a couple more out on the racetrack. Number 85 of Perry Vance. And then also the number 11 of Jason Hurdle is the 13 cars that we currently have on the racetrack. A little bit of an unorthodox grid rundown, Will, but it's nice to see all the cars on the screen, get them all some airtime, and check out all these cool liveries that we got going on tonight.
Yeah, pretty unique paint schemes right here tonight as we look down the grid, coming down the backstretch here on lap 17, going down into 3. Looks like everybody pulled out the fresh paint schemes here tonight as we come off of corner number 4.
And something I'm noticing, Joey Masevich and Guillaume Hainaut, they're starting to stretch it out a little bit over the rest of this field, and right now looks like Harbert's going down the inside of Jordan Corrin for what is the 3rd place position on the racetrack. And now you see the number 98 is scored as the number 80 on timing and scoring. I know that sometimes the numbers don't always match up to what the paint scheme here is and reflected on the racetrack. So we'll just try to keep everyone up to date with who we're talking about with names and numbers as we go on. But that is Jordan Corrin and what is the number 8 on timing and scoring, now actually making inroads on our 2 leaders.
Yeah, making inroads indeed right now as we go down to 1 and 2. Right in that 3rd position. He is 98 on the track, 80 in your programs. Here now trying to catch up to the 64, going down to 3.
I think that actually maybe the number 8 of Jordan Corrin holding up Brandon Evans just a little bit in the number 39, kind of like the cork in the bottle right now. And I'm interested to see, Will, because I don't have this information. We're going to have to see how it develops out on the racetrack. But all of these competitors will have to make a pit stop today, at least one. I would assume multiple pit stops. So I'm curious to see when they decide to do that under green flag conditions, how long they can stretch out these green flag runs, and also what the tire strategy is going to be, because I would assume it's going to be take 4 tires every time.
Yeah, I would say so. You got 4 sets here tonight. You might as well cut this race into a quarter race. Every pit stop, if you will, you take a set, and then maybe you come in just 4 tires. One of these stops that here as we come off of corner number 2 down the backstretch here tonight, Joey. I think that pit stop there at the very end of this race, that green flag pit stop, possibly foregoing any cautions, could be the difference in tonight's race.
I totally agree with you, Will. And then something else to pile on that pit stop, right, is the potential of 3 green-white checkered attempts if called for and if we get those yellows near the end. So you got to be careful. You can't come down just expecting to make it to the checkered flag, because there could be some bonus laps there that you have to do at the end if we do have those green-white checkered attempts. And you got to make sure that you have enough fuel to do those.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, as we have a battle for second here around 3 and 4 here, and down the front stretch, looks like Jacob Harbert's in that 80 machine's not going to climb up to second, down to 1.
Great call. Yes, Jacob Harbert's there in the number 80 going around Guillaume Hainaut. Now, we're going to be mentioning Guillaume quite a bit. If memory serves correct, I believe that he was one of our top finishers there in the trucks at Knoxville last week, and he's also one of our points contenders. He's came in 4th in the points today, not necessarily in the top 3, but I'm looking less than 1 point out of that 3rd place position, so I would consider him right up there.
Yeah, pretty good run this season for Guillaume in that 68, but you can't take your mind off that 64 of Joey Masevich, still a race leader here, 24 laps in.
Now, speaking of Joey Masevich, I know that he is heavily embedded into this Maconi umbrella, and none of this driver's gauntlet would be possible without Maconi Setup Shop. And if you're interested in anything that they offer, whether it's setups, paints, organization of events, broadcasting, head on over to www.maconisetupshop.com. Click on those subscriptions, see what car you got that you like doing laps out there and racing. Download one of those subscriptions and instantly start to drop the lap times. And while you're on that same website, click on that Maconi Entertainment tab and fill out that info, and Jeff will get back to you on how to get your race, special event, league, or even series broadcasted here on the screen with the commentary booth, so that way you can share it with all of your fans, friends, and go back and relive all of your race wins yourself. And all of that is available at www.maconisetupshop.com. Well, looks like we are 26 laps of 200 in the books. Now, Will, are you surprised that we haven't seen a yellow flag yet, that we've stayed green this whole time?
Yeah, we stay green right now here, 27 laps into this race. I think it's right now the track like Charlotte. Of course, the high bankings in 1 and 2, 3 and 4. This is a track that I grew up at here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Grew up about 10 minutes down the road from this track. Heard everything from pole night to Cup Series. It's a track that, if you let these runs take place, if you fan them out, these runs can just last lap after lap after lap. You can't catch the draft very strong here at this track. Of course, you can move positions up the track there, Joey, but here 28 laps in, you're seeing what I like to call the Jimmy Johnson run. If you can get out in that clean air here at Charlotte and start hitting those lines, you can check out from the rest of the race.
Yes, you can definitely check out. Now, Will, I had no idea that you had so much experience there being so close to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And one thing that I know about this racetrack that's actually pretty deceiving here as we watch the cars go around on the front straightaway, it really fans out to multiple lanes of racing through the D-shaped quad oval, right? But this racetrack is notoriously narrow, especially entering turn 1.
It definitely is. You can almost call it's almost like the bottleneck when they do the Charlotte Roval here, when everything bottlenecks down to corner number 1. Just like here at bottlenecks, there used to be a bump on 3 and 4 there for the tunnel as well. So it was always something you have to watch out for. Of course, they've gotten rid of that bump in the corner there, Joey, around 3 and 4. But also here, as this race proceeds, watch out for some of these drivers now getting loose off of 4. Start to drift up the track and try that topside lane. You'll see more drivers here tonight how narrow this racetrack is. They'll try to find different grooves, different lines around this racetrack. Try to find that speed, if you will.
Right now, looks like the 0-3 of Jeff Maconi going underneath the number 8 car, but actually gets pretty loose on the exit of turn 2, loses all of his momentum that he was trying to make the pass there, and now he's going to have to fend off Blanca Gonzalez in the 58. As look at this, just all of that momentum completely gone, all of the wind out of the sails, if you will.
Yeah, right now heading down the corner number 1, that 57 right now, trying to go to the inside of the 46 right now, down into 1 and 2. Still going to hold the position right there. I believe that's Jacob Reeves in that 57 machine, trying to gain position down the backstretch, down into 3.
Yeah, that is the 57 of Jacob Reeves. And see the number 8 of Jordan Corrin really testing that top side. We'll see if it pays off coming off a 4. Had a big wiggle in turn 4 and does not carry that momentum that he needs to down the front straightaway. And now Jeff Maconi in the 0-3 going to try his shot one more time down at the low line on this racetrack. He got really loose coming out of turn 2 last time he tried this and stays side by side with him this time, going down into turn 3. See if he can get the track position, because last time the number 8 got wicked loose coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, right now you still see Jeff Maconi in that 0-3 to the inside. He's still riding that inside lane down into 1. He's going to cut off that topside lane on entry of the corner. Going to try to ride that middle side to block both the 58 and I believe that's the 46 on the top side. Maconi will hold position off of 2.
Yeah, looks like Blanca Gonzalez is the next one lined up to try to get around the number 8 car of Jordan Corrin. And one thing I'm noticing about the top side of the racetrack is it seems to be okay in turns 1 and 2, but here in turns 3 and 4, the number 8 really suffers. And We're jumping back up to the lead battle because this is Jacob Harberts now officially has caught Joey Masevich. Will, check this out. These two have checked out. They're over 2 seconds in front of Guillaume Hainaut. They're in the third place position, but Jacob Harberts in that number 80 got a fast race car.
Yeah, this is a track, Joey. You know, a lot of people, you mentioned it on the intro of the broadcast here tonight, a lot of people are familiar with this racetrack here and know how to race this track. They've raced it numerous times. It's probably one of the first track a lot of people buy here on the iRacing Simulator here coming off of 2. He's going to slide just a little bit here. I'm wondering if we're having a little bit of a tire wear issue here 35 laps in.
Oh, well, that's a great point that you bring up, and the 64 really slides up the racetrack. See if he can carry the momentum down now off of turn 4, and looks like he was able to make that work. Carrying the top speed down the front straightaway, is able to hold off Jacob Harberts there in the second place position. And here you see Joey Masevich once again work the top side of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2. And once again, carry that momentum down the straightaway. And I'm not seeing Jacob Harberts make those inroads anymore, but here it is, all about finding that clean air, it seems.
Yeah, find that clean air indeed, but it could be disastrous the way these guys are driving, sliding around the racetrack here. 37 laps in, down to corner number 1.
Now, Will, if you are Jacob Harberts, if you get up next to Joey Masevich, are you taking this lead for yourself? Do you want the clean air? Or do you want the fuel savings? And I think we're getting our answer right now. Jacob Harberts wants the track position. He's taking a look down the inside of our leader.
Yeah, he's going to the inside of the 64 right now on 3 and 4. The 64 is sliding around the racetrack right now. Slides off of 4 again. Almost makes contact with the top side wall. As we have a new race leader, Jacob Harberts, and that 80 down to 1.
Really good job from Jacob Harberts right there, I do say, because he caught Masevich. He wasn't overly aggressive with his move once he got there. He just hung out, applied the pressure, said, hey, you know what? I'm fast. I'm a little bit faster. What are you going to do? And slowly but surely, Masevich searched around the racetrack, was not able to find the speed, and Jacob Harberts just drove right underneath Joey Masevich, and now, with just a couple laps in clean air, has already stretched out almost a half a second in front.
Yeah, right now the 80 machine still our race leader, 39 laps into this race, creeping up to almost 50 laps into the books here. Jeffrey Maconi, that 03 machine, currently in 4th. You see right now creeping up that grade, currently inside the top 5 off of 2.
And this is a great run for the 03 machine, and he's made it through kind of that pack behind him, and slowly but surely making inroads on Guillaume Hainaut. Not much, because he's still got about 2.5 seconds to make up before he gets to that third place runner. But I'm seeing maybe about 1/10.5, maybe 0.2 per lap he's taken out of that number 68. So a long way to climb, but he is headed the right direction. Looking back a little bit more through the field right now, looks like Blanca Gonzalez, Carson Lucas, Jacob Reeves, they're all kind of staying in this pack right now. And looks like Jacob Reeves actually just got into the wall a little bit there coming off of turn 4, Will.
Yeah, bouncing off the top side wall right there. That 57 machine's been comfortably inside the top 5, now has dropped down to 8th right now. 41 laps into this race here tonight, coming off of 2. A long way to go here. Still about 160 laps to go.
You called it, 160 laps to go. A long ways for these competitors, and it's time to start thinking about that pit strategy when you're out there on the racetrack. Do you split this up into the thirds like you were kind of saying, Will, and you come here at lap 50 and just make it a good, even strategy? And I'm looking at timing and scoring, and it looks like tire fall off is a pretty significant thing here. Fast laps are in the 30-second range, while our competitors are currently doing 32s, almost 33 seconds per lap.
And right now, a new race leader right there is that 80 of Hart. Oh my goodness! And I was talking about Harberts and that 80 leading the way, but we have cars sliding around the racetrack right now. 43 laps in. This could be exactly that tire window. Maybe lap 50 is that sweet spot.
It very well could be, and this is the number 68 of Guillaume Hainaut. I mentioned that he's one of our points contenders coming into today, coming in here in the 4th place points in the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet in the point standings. And other big players, Joey Masevich in the 2nd place in points coming into today, and Carson Lucas. Now, we haven't mentioned Carson Lucas very much, but he's currently running in the 6th place position right here, and he's actually holding down the 3rd place of that points standings of the Drivers Gauntlet.
Yeah, currently that point standing's very close right here. This is the second to last race of the season. Next week will be the season finale here in the Drivers Gauntlet as we move to those Cup cars here. Drivers Gauntlet, we've worked our way all the way up here through the series, Joey. Here, 45 laps in this race. What's impressed you the most about the Drivers Gauntlet?
Yeah, are you stealing my thoughts over here? Because I was just about to ask you that. I think just the variety of cars and tracks and racing that we've seen. Now, if we're going to do a 2024 Drivers Gauntlet, I might suggest maybe throw in a road course that has been so popular in the last handful of years in the NASCAR series in real life. What do you think about that call, Will?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good call indeed right there, but I like the progression of what these drivers have had gone through this series. It's been pretty awesome so far. You get to know some of these drivers, see what they're made of. You're going from different car to different car. Maybe a road course in the mix would be a good mix-up to this. Joey, more cars sliding off for 2.
Yeah, that was the 88 Carson Lucas, who I just mentioned. Big points runner here. Had a big wiggle off of turn 2 as, Will, you mentioned it. Coming up on 50 laps here. Starting to get some pretty significant tire wear as Blanca Gonzalez is going to try to go around the outside now. Carson Lucas test out the top side of turns 1 and 2. And yeah, I agree with you, Will. I think the progression, seeing the new drivers, or I shouldn't say the new drivers, the different crop of drivers, and have them start there in the Legends cars. And if you remember, we had so many Legends cars on that little oval, and then went to the late model style cars, and once again, big wiggle out of Carson Lucas, but Josh Cottle really dominated those late model cars, from the late models to the super late models, and then really into the ARCA cars. And here we are into the Xfinity cars, something I'm a little bit more familiar with. And yeah, I guess to wrap up, I just like seeing the progression and the variety. A lot of iRacing series, they get stuck into one model, one track mind, if you will, and I like the variety.
Yeah, definitely variety is good indeed, but you just spoke about Josh Cottle. No Josh Cottle here tonight. What effect do you think that'll have on the overall championship point standings?
Well, I don't know in terms of the point standings, but I actually see the 88 of Carson Lucas. I believe he's going to be our first car coming down pit road right now, taking that opportunity to split this race easily into thirds on that green flag pit stop. And here's Jeff Maconi actually caught Guillaume Hainaut, and Guillaume says, you know what? My opportunity now to come down pit lane, fill it on up with fuel, take a fresh set of tires, and get back going out there on the racetrack. And something we're going to have to keep an eye on, Will, the cars that pit earlier, they're going to get speed as soon as they get out there on the racetrack, so they have that opportunity to kind of call it an undercut the cars in front of, or that were in front of them before.
Yeah, watch out for that undercut indeed. Right now here, 51 laps in. I think right now here, Joey, it's very early on in this race. The drivers will be doing their homework, trying to figure out what pit window is going to work best for them. We talked about here on this broadcast, they're going to have to pit multiple times here, probably another 2 more times here tonight. So definitely learning here this first pit stop. Probably going to experiment again in that second window, and then that third window, they'll have everything honed in for the end of this race.
I totally agree, and I hear more drivers on the radio saying, hey, I'm putting my hand out the window. I'm saying, I'm coming in. Please don't run over me on the racetrack. And that was the 58 of Blanca Gonzalez. You see him coming here off of turn number 4. And what we're going to do is hop around to a few competitors as you see the car right behind Blanca lock it up, come in, and listen to the sights and sounds here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway and these beautiful Xfinity cars. Well, you are watching round 6 here of the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet on Maconi Entertainment. The Drivers Gauntlet is a 7-week series designed to emulate the progression of a driver from the beginning ranks of the Legends cars all the way up the ladder system and into the next gens. Tonight, we're here in the Xfinity cars as Charlotte watching a battle for what is the third place position between Jeffrey Maconi in the 03 and Guillaume Hainaut in the 68 down low.
Yeah, back here live from Charlotte here, off of 2 here, down the backstretch right now. Harbert's still our race leader in that 80, the 64 Misevich right there, and second, Jeff Maconi in third. We look at Guillaume Hainaut in fourth, and we also look at Lucas in that 88 in fifth. Currently our top 5, 59 laps in.
Actually, this is our battle up front that we're going to jump to right here. This is Jacob Harbert's our lead car, and you see Joey Misevich, he's got company here. Now, when we went to break there, when we came into the pit stops, Jacob Harberts had pulled it out about a little over a second over Joey Misevich, and this has closed back in, and these cars are running different setups out here, so I wonder if we're just seeing a little bit of the speed differential. Certainly seems like the 64 is fast at the beginning half of the run, and maybe the 80, or the 98, I should say, on your screen, takes a little bit longer to build that speed up.
Yeah, certainly right now is now you see Joe Musevich back to the inside lane, that white line, if you will, as we're going to jump through the field right now, checking out Guillaume Henno in that 68 machine currently in fourth. Right there, single file back to this open air racing here, Joey, as we're 61 laps in, down to one.
The best battle is for the lead right now on the racetrack as Musevich continues to be right on the back of Jacob Harberts. Looks like he is going to go to the low side, and look at this. I'm seeing Jacob Harberts wait a little bit with a late entry. He saw the 64 go down low, and he says, okay, that's where I'm going to go. If you want to go run down there, I'm going to take your line away from you.
Yeah, and you see this battle starting to brew up right now here. Single file, Joey. We've seen this here tonight. No yellow flags really on the racetrack. We haven't really seen the drivers get close enough to cause yellow flags. We've seen drivers get loose off of the corners. Drivers been able to save it. Of course, we're going to see that out of the talent field that we have here in the drivers' gauntlet. But here as we come off of four, and you see that run right there off of the 64 machine. Looks like he has a bit of a run coming off of four.
Yeah, trying to keep that momentum carried up down the straightaway, and let's leave it right here on this battle because actually in front of Jacob Harberts, we're going to be approaching a lapped car here soon, and there's only two cars that are fighting to stay on the lead lap. That's Kyle Wisner right in front, and then also Perry Vance in front of him. And before we know it, Jacob Harberts and Joey Musevich, they're going to have to navigate this, and not really that big of a deal as these cars are kind of spread out, but it is going to have to come down to side-by-side racing, and you got to get it clean, and you can't get held up by the traffic.
No, you can't, and you got to make sure you lock in that draft here, Joey. You talked about how narrow this racetrack is. I know it firsthand. Of course, you have these wide banking corners that make it extremely difficult to pass in. And of course, you have to catch that draft line off of either this quad corner, as you just talked about it here on the straightaway, or try to pass somebody on the backstretch, which is a very short backstretch, if you will, here, Joey. Not a very long backstretch here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Very difficult to make passes here. Might not look like it on an everyday basis, but very difficult if you do catch the guy in front of you.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's narrow. It has those funnel effects like what you were talking about earlier. So you almost kind of have to fake them out or set it up a full lap before or the other side of the racetrack to kind of throw them off of the racing line that you need them to get off of, and then start to take advantage of them out there on the racetrack. And looks like the 64 might be starting to search around just a little bit on the racetrack. Carried a wider entry going into turns 1 and 2 that lap, but continues to follow in the tire tracks of this number 80, Jacob Harberts, our leader.
Yeah, right now filing in the tire tracks here, creeping up here on lap 66 down the front stretch across, make it 67 down into 1 and 2 now starting to separate from the rest of the field.
And the other thing that we could consider here, Will, is the tire progression and how that affected the handling of the race car throughout the run, because these competitors now have a full green flag stint underneath them. And if memory serves me correctly, I saw a lot of cars wiggling around coming off of turn 2, coming off of turn 4. Seemed like the cars tended to go loose on everybody. I wonder if any drivers are compensating earlier in the run for any of those later characteristics.
Yeah, and I think that's what we'll see out of those first two pit stops here tonight. A lot of experimentation to see, of course, we saw about lap 50, some of these tires starting to give way on these drivers, starting to see those tails start to wiggle just a little bit as we dig down to 3 and 4. So now here, as we're on a set of new tires here, let's say this last 50 laps, these next 50 laps here as we creep up to the century mark, what are these drivers going to look like? Are they going to push that envelope a little bit further? Are they going to pit early? What kind of experiment are they going to play with here on lap 70? As we creep up to that mark, we're looking at maybe around lap 90, 95. Some of these drivers might head in.
Well, I think that's a great word that you used, experiment, right? Because I think the first set of stops is, hey, we need to go out and collect data, right? Don't do anything crazy. Let's just see the direction that the race car goes here in this race condition. And Now that we're in the middle of the race, yeah, I think that you can experiment, if you will. Maybe come in 5 laps early, or maybe come in 5 laps later. See how that affects just kind of your overall track position. See how it affects where you're able to race other cars out there, because it does throw you slightly off strategy. Not enough to ruin your race, but just enough to make people wonder, is there something else to find out there?
Yeah, right now everybody's trying to find something here on this racetrack. Very fanned out here, 71 laps into this Drivers Gauntlet here at 2023 Drivers Gauntlet here on Maconi Entertainment. Right now here, Joey, I would say it's been the same players at the top of the grid, but we've talked about how this race can shake out with all these green flag pit stops that will come into play.
Yeah, and we already saw one green flag pit stop, and surprisingly, most people got through it pretty cleanly. And right now we're seeing our first car go 1 lap down. That's the number 42 of Kyle Wisner on screen there. You just saw Jacob Harberts and Joey Masevich put the 42 1 lap down. And just in front of our leader now is going to be Perry Vance in the number 85 car. He's going to be the next one that the leaders are going to have to navigate, put 1 lap down. And as you see, Perry's coming out of turn 4 right now, and our leaders are only about a quarter of a straightaway behind him, so only a handful of more laps, and Harberts will be getting around here on this number 85.
Yeah, Harbert's right now still in the lead position around 1 and 2. Still holding off the 64. Joey Masevich right now. You see that gap just increasing here down the backstretch. Jacob Herbert's in that 80 worked his way up there to get that lead. Now looking back on the rest of the field.
Yeah, and kind of like what we saw out of the first stint, that Joey Masevich in the 64 showed a lot of speed up front. And then in the back half of the stint, it seemed like it was all Jacob Harberts. And look at this, the 88 of Carson Lucas getting under Guillaume Hainaut right now down the front straightaway. This is a battle for the 4th place position. Now the 88 has been all over the back of Guillaume the last handful of laps or so, and finally is able to get that track position and takes away the 4th spot.
Yeah, right now you see Guillaume still right there in that 68 trying to battle right now to get that spot back as we're side by side around the corner here, down the front stretch. Still a battle for position across the line, 76 down to 1.
Guillaume not giving up one bit, trying to side draft a little bit off of the 88 going down the front straightaway, and he's taking that low lane, although he doesn't get all the way down to that white stripe down there that you want to get down to here at Charlotte. Will, you know how important that track is. If you're going to run down low, you got to get all the way down there.
Yeah, you got to get all the way down there. You can't linger in that middle lane, or you have to go. Oh, we see contact. There's contact made on the front stretch right there. Guillaume in that 68 machine makes contact on the front stretch. Caution flag is out, Joey. Our first caution of the night.
We have our first caution flag, just as you called it, Will, between Carson Lucas and Guillaume Hainaut. And if you ask me, this was just tough racing between the two of them. Coming up off of turn 4, we're going to catch this replay here between the two, and it's kind of this funnel, this choke point, if you will.
Yeah, we've talked about it here tonight. There's those funnel points, if you will, on the entry of 1 and 2 and the exit of 3 and 4. Very tight off those corners. Right here as we watch this replay of Maconi Entertainment, would you say here, Joey, 71 laps in here, is it too early for this much noise?
No, I don't think so. I think that was good hard racing there, and this has been a very calm race, and these two were battling for what was the 4th position, and I didn't see anything malicious there. Now, I know that the 88 took a pretty hard lick into the outside wall. I see some pretty heavy damage there on the 88. That's unfortunate to see, but I would definitely boil this one down to a racing incident. I don't think there is any malicious intent there, and looks like we got the field coming down to pit road. Take this opportunity under the yellow flag to put some new tires on it.
Yeah, definitely. That'd probably be the opportunity here. So it basically cuts that window down so you don't have to pit around lap 90, or will some drivers do you think around that century mark, do you think some drivers will still head down, Joey?
I don't know. I think that if I had the fuel numbers in front of me, then we could probably make an educated guess on that one. Um, we saw them stretch it to roughly lap 50 to make it into a thirds when they were doing the green flag stop. Now that we've got a yellow flag, kind of throws a wrench in that strategy now, doesn't it? Because I don't know if they stretched it all the way to the tank was dry or if they were just making an easy strategy call.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting to see right now here as we're still under caution as we wait everybody to come off of pit road. See how this grid will reshuffle here as we creep up to the century mark here in the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet here. This is race number 6 here, Joey. We only have one more race here left of what has been an exciting series so far.
Very exciting series so far, and when it rains, it pours out there, Will. I'm seeing Carson Lucas given an EOL, end of line penalty right now, and not exactly sure what's going on between him and the 52 on the racetrack because they're both stopped on the back straightaway as I believe that was Guillaume Hainaut going by, but Carson Lucas with heavy damage on his race car and also getting that penalty now. Gotta be a demoralizing feeling inside that simulator.
Yeah, definitely demoralizing indeed. You don't want that right now, but still a long way to go here tonight as we await the restart here. Still under caution. It looks to me the pace lights are off of the pace car here as we're still creeping around Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, it's tough to see them. Let me go check here. Because I think we might have one more lap, and looks like the lights are still on here, so got a little bit more time to kill, Will. You know what that means? That means it's time to pull out that crystal ball of yours. You got it handy?
I sure do.
All right, well, tell me, what does the crystal ball predict? We have not had a restart yet. We've only had the initial start of the race. Are we going to see another yellow flag within 10 laps? Or are we going to get another long green flag run?
I think we're going to see a long green flag run here, Joey, to start off this restart. Then we'll creep up to that century mark. We'll start to see which drivers want to get that pit stop out of the way, kind of cut that last window in half as well. That way you have a longer green flag run there to close out the race. You don't have to worry about pitting at the end. You have all that taken care of. And if you do need to pit at the end, if a caution flag flies, you'll maybe have one extra set left here. So watch out here, Joey. Which drivers want to push the issue until we get to that century mark? Or which drivers want to tend to lay back here at the restart here, only about 75, 76 laps in.
You're telling me that you're giving all these race car drivers race cars and a racetrack to play on, and you're saying, hey guys, just take it easy for a little bit.
I think so. I think that's going to be the strategy here tonight. Which drivers can sort of take it easy. You've seen even the leaders up here at the top of the grid slip sliding around the corner, some of them making contact with one another. That could be disastrous. So for some of these drivers that are okay with their cars, you keep it tight, you keep it around this racetrack, could be the drivers that maybe survive a big wreck at the end of this race.
Survival indeed. And I think the wise saying is, in order to finish first you must finish. And that means you have to survive all the way to the end of the race. And something that we didn't catch on to is that looks like Joey Masevich is actually going to have control of the restart, which means he got around Jacob Herbert's there on pit lane, and he's got the familiar 0-3. That's Joey Masevich has Jeff Maconi behind him. Those two work together all the time. I would not be surprised if they line up on this restart right here as the pace car pulls off pit road. We wait for that restart zone, and 64 is on the loud pedal. Look at the jump that Joey Masevich already gets. Kind of leaves Jeff Maconi in the dust down there in the low lane, and the threat right now is coming from the number 8 car of Jordan Corrin.
Wow, as right now coming off of two, Jeffrey Maconi gets very, very loose, almost wrecks that race car as he taps that apron with those front set of Goodyear Eagles right now down into three, everything single file as they come off of corner number 4.
Off of corner 4, and here comes Blanca Gonzalez back there in the 58, also applying pressure now to Jeff Maconi as he looks in front of him at Jordan Corn, going down the inside of Jacob Harberts. And if you ask me, that looked really easy out of the number 8. And I think that Jacob Harberts right now is doing something pretty savvy. I think he's kind of saving some tire life right now. Remember, he was fast on the end of the run, which means he knows how to manage this front half.
Yeah, but right now he's going to be under fire with two cars that really don't care about conserving. You're going to see this battle right now. You see Blanca Gonzalez up there. You also see Jeffrey Maconi in that 03 machine right now off of 2. Going to start to see him have to put somewhere on that tires, Joey, or going to lose position here on the racetrack as now Jeffrey Maconi thought he had a run going on onto the inside. Now has to shift up to the top side here. Coming off of 4. 83 lobs in, make it 84 down to 1.
Well, you called it right there. Jeff Maconi had to check up big time, and it's all because of the tire strategy saving out of the car in front of him. Jacob Harberts is really lifting off of the gas heavy at the beginning of the corner, really easing it in, trying to be gentle on those tires, saying, hey, it's okay. I'm here to protect you. I'm not going to abuse you. Just stay with me in the long run. And if you look right now, looks like we got a new player out front. Jordan Corrin is applying some serious pressure to Joey Masevich and actually has a nose down the inside here into turn 1.
Yeah, Jacob Corrin right now, our race leader now to the inside of the 64 of Joey Masevich. I think just switched place with Jacob Rees in that 57, who's now down into the 8th spot, down 5 spots from the drop of the green flag. Jacob Rees was running up there in the top 5. Something must have went and missed on that 57. Now can't find the speed underneath those tires.
That's a good catch there. I wonder if the 57, I know that he tapped the wall a little bit earlier. I wonder if he got into the wall again at some point and is maybe carrying a little bit of damage on the side of that number 57 car, because you're right, Will. He was definitely running up front and down a handful of positions from where he initially started, hanging out right now in what is the 8th place position. And looking at the 68 of Guillaume Hainaut, currently running in 4th, getting pressure from Jeffrey Maconi behind. Jeff's going to take a look down the inside, not quite have a nose down there into turn 1 this lap.
Yeah, this goes along exactly what I was talking about there, Joey, of which driver is going to push the issue here towards the century mark of this race. The halfway point of this race. I'm sure a lot of drivers have that penciled in, a pitting window, whether it's for fuel, whether it's for tires. I'm sure they were going to go 50-50 on both, just like an NFL team with a draft pick. You have your primary option and your secondary option. Shout out to the F1 season kicking off tomorrow, Joey. You have your primary race tires, and then you have your secondary race tires here. Now we watch the 03 machine of Jeffrey Maconi now trying to take a spot from Guillaume in that 68, who is also struggling to hold position here down the backstretch.
Yeah, and I was honestly expecting a little bit more speed out of Guillaume tonight, and not to slight him one bit, because he has ran incredibly consistent out there, but I just know that he's one of our front runners and one of our top championship contenders, so I'm always expecting big things out of that number 68 machine. And still, out front right now, it's Jordan Corrin leading the way over Joey Masevich, over Blanca Gonzalez now in the 3rd place. And spend a little bit of time here on this number 58 car, because he showed aggression at the beginning part of the race, if you remember that, Will, in the first handful of laps, then kind of got shoved out of line and never really made up that track position. But here he is after the pit stop, now hanging out in 3rd place and looks to have plenty of pace.
Plenty of pace indeed, rocking that homage paint scheme to the one and only Kurt Busch there. Kurt Busch had to retire there for, we can go ahead and say it there, Joey, medical reasons there. Probably has the urge to still drive, still hasn't been cleared from that wreck back in July But you got to say, hats off to Kurt Busch for bringing Monster Energy into this series. It's cool to see it on these paint schemes here in iRacing. Definitely on the side of Blanca Gonzalez here to not up to third inside the podium.
And looking at our field, I'm actually very impressed. So we started with 14 cars here tonight to take the green flag. And right now, of those 14, 12 of the 14 are still on the lead lap. Lap number 91. About to click over to lap number 92 here as our leaders and field cross across the start-finish line over the watchful eye of Barney, a.k.a. Brandon Davis, out there. And I wonder if Brandon is actually hooked into Barney. Like, if he's wearing a virtual reality headset, can he go take the spot of Barney on the flag stand right there?
Oh, that'd be very cool to see, indeed, to see that point of view.
Wouldn't it? That would be awesome. I think maybe we should talk to iRacing and see if we can get that.
Definitely, that'd be one of many things I suppose that iRacing needs to add into the game.
Yeah, it's probably on the long list there of things that needs to be added into the game. While we're on a little bit of an off-topic point, that I think they need an open paddock feature, Will, because how great would it be that after one of these races, you climb out of the car, go full GTA style, and walk down to your competitor's pit stall?
This is true, and Joey, one thing to me that I feel like one series of motorsports that doesn't really get looked at as much, that's drifting. How come there isn't a drifting category to iRacing?
Oh, that's a pretty difficult one because I think maybe the main holdback there is the tire modeling and the physics modeling because it is very different than quote-unquote grip racing like we do out here. And
right.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. And I know that I got to have the conversation with Kevin Bobbitt down at Daytona just a couple weeks ago when we were down there and talked to him about some of the future things. And I voiced to him that I wanted to see some stadium super trucks out here on iRacing. Now, I know that we have the Pro Lights and the Pro 2s and the Pro 4s, but I want to see those implemented into a road course series. And I think that would be really neat. I don't think that we're going to see it happen on iRacing, but Will, do you know what I'm talking about with the stadium super trucks going around to the road course venues and putting the jumps in the middle of the racetrack?
No, I don't.
Oh boy, Will. Well, I will drop some links in the chat for you so that way you can see. But basically, Robbie Gordon, you know who Robbie Gordon is, don't you? Yeah. Okay, so Robbie Gordon owns Stadium Super Trucks, and he basically has a traveling pro truck circus that goes around to all of these different street circuit venues like IndyCar or V8 supercars in Australia. Put some jumps in the middle of the racetrack and is kind of the halftime show. Get the crowd warmed up for the main event, and they put on some of the most amazing racing that you will see.
Okay. All right. Sounds interesting.
What's better than an 800 horsepower off-road truck doing a street circuit?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, to get off of our ADD topic here, looks like Joey Masevich has actually caught Jordan Corrin, saved those tires a little bit better, and is now repassed for the lead here on lap 98 of 200. And just as I predicted, here comes Jacob Harberts, that master of the long run. He's gotten around Blanca Gonzalez, already hounding the back of Jordan Corrin. I don't think it's going to be a matter of a few more laps before we see Jacob Harberts up there battling for the lead with Joey Masevich.
Yeah, that's spot on right now as we come around the corner here. Lap 98 down the front stretch here. Make it 99. 1 to go before we reach that century mark.
Wow, man. 1 to go. You had me psyched out there, Will. We're only halfway done with this race here. And look at that. Jacob Harberts straight to the bottom of the racetrack and around Jordan Corrin to that second place position out there on the racetrack. And coming up out of turn 4, I'm looking down through the field. See Guillaume's back there in 6th. Jeff Maconi in 5th. Joey Masevich, one of our big points leaders, currently leading the race. And we are officially halfway through. Going to take a little quick break here, ride along with some of the competitors and the sights and sounds here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Well, you are watching the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet on Maconi Entertainment. Drivers Gauntlet is a 7-week series designed to emulate the progression of a driver from the beginning ranks of Legends cars all the way up the ladder system and into the next gens. Tonight, we are round 6 of 7 here in the Xfinity cars at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Just over halfway done with this one, 107 laps in the book so far, and none of this would be possible without the help from Maconi Setup Shop. Head on over to www.maconisetupshop.com and check out the various subscriptions they have available. Kind of click on the fastest, or not the fastest, but click on the car that you like to drive the most in the iRacing simulator. Get one of those subscriptions downloaded and instantly start to drop the lap times. And if you're interested in any broadcasting information, click on that Maconi Entertainment tab on the top of the screen and fill out the information. And Jeff will get back to you on how to get your league, race, special event, or series broadcasted here on the screen to share with your fans, friends, family, and go back and look at all of your racing action and just a great way to relive it all. And out on the racetrack, Will, we have a new leader. We step aside for only a few minutes, and looks like we got somebody familiar back out front.
Yeah, Jacob Hartman's in the 80 machine now, leading the way here on lap 110 down into corner number 1. Joey Masevich is right there in that 64. We look at Jordan right there in that 46 machine, currently third, and Jeff Maconi in fourth, and Guillaume Hesno in fifth.
Yeah, Guillaume back there holding down the 5th spot, and actually looks like we got a good little pack of race cars for battling for 7th place right now between Brandon Evans, Dakota Bro, Jacob Reeves, and Kyle Wisner. Even back here, back on the lead lap, and Carson Lucas trundling around back there, still trying to keep in touch. And oh no, looks like Blanca Gonzalez just had a problem on the racetrack. I see him down on pit road right now, Will. He's got heavy damage on the right rear of his number 58 car. I'm going to go back and try to look, see where we can find he had that incident, but troubles for one of our runners that was up front earlier.
Yeah, 58 was a top 10 car here tonight, top 5 in some parts as well. Now, right now, down the 12th as we watch a battle ensue right now, Jeff Maconi trying to ease up into that podium spot, does just that, down into 1 and 2.
Yeah, as you watch the 0-3 go by Jordan Corrin there, I was able to find what happened to Blanca Gonzalez, and looks like he got loose off of turn number 4, smacked the wall all by himself, and spun to the inside. So that is him taking those damage repairs on pit road right now. Going to put him several laps down, since we did not get a yellow flag out there for his incident, just a single car incident, and looks like he's back going on the racetrack right now, but not good news for that number 58 machine.
No, not good news indeed. Right now, currently 12th. Gonna have a long way to go here on lap 113. Still a good bit of racing to go here tonight, Joey, but I believe for that 58 here tonight, the race might be all but signed, sealed, and delivered, as now we're starting to see that pace again here tonight, Joey. As you look right there, Jordan's starting to slide here. Some of these drivers now have to figure out whether or not to pit here during this green flag run or push just a little bit more to lap 150.
Now, I'm going to bring up a point that you brought up not too long ago, is the strategy, right? Do we see people split it to the 50 laps after we saw the yellow flag come out earlier, or are we going to see them stretch it a little bit further? Because the cars, you're right, Will, are starting to wiggle around. They're getting loose. They're starting to move around a lot underneath these competitors, and I'm actually seeing Blanca Gonzalez back out there on the racetrack, and him with fresh tires is actually a pretty good reference of what's going on right now. And he just did a 31.1 going through traffic. Our leader, 32.6. So a full second and a half faster, even a few laps down.
Yeah, right now as we're watching this race play out here on 115, Harbour still our race leader. Another thing to watch out for here tonight, Joey, as those pit stops, everything that these drivers have to calculate is here. If you push that window, pitting at lap 150, is that going to put you in a better position towards the end of the race? Or is it going to be better to maybe push it to lap 160? It's all going to be about that last pit stop.
Yeah, it really is going to be. And let's go look at Jacob Reeves right now. He's going by Perry Vance on the racetrack, and Brandon Evans is also going to try to get alongside of him, and all three of these cars are wiggling around, and oh no, Perry Vance just scrapes the wall a little bit in that number 85 machine, allows Brandon Evans in the 39 to go up underneath, and just loses a little bit of track position out there. You see 57 of Jacob Reeves kind of leading this 4-car pack out on the racetrack. Now, Will, you said it's all about that last pit stop. Now, these drivers are working 40 laps on their current fuel stint. Those tires, we're seeing them, they start to feel like gummy bears. At what point does the driver jump up and down, scream and yell loud enough that you say, all right, just come get your fresh tires already?
I'm thinking it's going to be, for some of these drivers, it's going to be a mixed bag. We had some of these drivers pit just a little while ago. Some of these drivers stayed out. I'd say probably looking in the range of probably pushing in the range of maybe a lap 140. You're going to start to see that 135 range. Drivers really going to push these tires to the limit just to make sure they have a longer run there at the end. Or you could see some even some drivers trying to make it an even 50, push it to lap 150 here. That's 30 laps from now. Get that pit stop out of the way. That way you don't have anything to worry about the rest of the run.
Wallen, the car that we saw stretch it the furthest is Jacob Harbert's earlier in the race. He stretched it longer than anybody else, and that's what I would expect the race leader to do, especially since he's found the speed in the last half of the run. He's built that gap, he's built that cushion, and he can afford to take it a little bit further than the rest of the field and then come in, put that fresh tire on, and really just start to sail away. But I mentioned the tires because our first stint, roughly 50, right? We saw them all come down at 50. Second stint was split up to about 25 laps. Now, we are on stint number 3. We are working 42 laps on the current stint. So, if we go by our stint 1 calculation, there's only going to be about 5 to 8 more laps that we're going to see out on the racetrack before cars come into pit lane. And actually, look at this. Jacob Harbert's our leader, our first one to come down pit road. He is currently stopped in his stall, taking tires and fuel.
Right here on lap 121, 50 laps from now, that would put us at around 71. So keep an eye out for that here tonight, whether or not Jacob Harberts can finish the race here tonight. As we're starting to see some other drivers head down. Looks like Jeffrey Maconi in that 03.
Well, and I think this has got to be as far as they can take it on the fuel. Now, I know that they made it to roughly lap 50 earlier on, but that was with a few pace laps and whatnot. And, I'm surprised not to see him stretch it all the way out there, but I am also looking. They came in at 120. That would mean 80 laps, probably pit one more time, 40 laps to go, and that would split this strategy up 40 laps for each one of these last 3 stints, call it, Will. And that's not too bad. We were doing 50 lap stints, and now they're just shortening it to a 40 lap stint, maybe even give a little bit of cushion to be more aggressive on those tires.
Yeah, but do you think this maybe falls to an advantage of a driver like a Bianca Gonzalez, that 58 machine? You saw the problems that he had not too long ago. Has a pit stop out of the way, so you think about that long run here where other drivers going to have to worry about pitting. That 58 machine's going to be back in the mix. That 58's going to be fast here tonight. We've seen it so far, in those runs. But right now here on lap 24, not everybody pit there, Joey. Still some drivers out on the racetrack.
Well, I think crucially, Joey Masevich, our leader, got around Harberts. So Harberts is 1 lap down there in that 7th place position. So it does, you're right, it opens up the door a little bit currently on the strategy, but I think as soon as the 80 gets around Masevich and is back on that lead lap, call it, kind of throws the strategy of all of the rest of the cars kind of out the window, because the 80's already laid it down. He's the fastest car on the racetrack, and it's up to everybody else now to catch up to him.
Yeah, right now here, Joey Masevich still a race leader in that 64 machine. And you look at the last time that 64 headed down pit road was on lap 77. You look at positions 1 all the way down to about the 7th spot. They have not headed down pit road yet. And, you look at the next wave of drivers after that on those fresh set of tires, fresh pit stops out of the way. It's being led by that 80 machine of Jacob Harberts here with 126 on the board here, Joey. Some drivers still trying to push that envelope here in this run.
Yeah, really trying to push the envelope. And the one that I've been really watching trying to push that envelope is Joey Masevich back there. I actually think that he's saving a little bit of fuel right now. 33.0 was his last lap time. Compare that to the freshly pitted Jacob Harbert's 31.1, almost a 2-second lap difference between these two competitors right now. And That just screams fuel save to me. I don't know. Does that say something else to you, Will?
Yeah, right now you see the 64 on top of the grid. Some other drivers now at the end of their runs for the 64 here, Joey. You got to think got a pretty good gap on second and the rest of the field. If you can conserve right now and break it down to that 150 mark we were talking about, you're gonna have about an extra 20 laps on the rest of these drivers who might have to worry about a pit stop at the end.
Well, and I think the only way that this strategy can play out for Joey Masevich is if he can stretch it to only one more stop in this race.
Right.
Because, if he stays in front, basically, if he's on the same strategy as Jacob Harbert's, meaning you only got to stop one more time, all he's got to do is keep that track position, and he's kind of on the level playing field. However, if he does not save enough fuel, he is not going to make this work, and it is going to be a long, forgotten waste of time out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely don't want that here as we're riding on board with Joey Masevich in that 64 machine. Now you see the 03 right there, Jeff Maconi trying to get his lap back there in that 03 machine. Currently, Jeff Maconi is being registered in the 6th position. Going to be on the lead lap now. That only leaves 6 cars that are on the lead lap right now on the racetrack.
Now, Jeff Maconi is on the same strategy as Jacob Harberts. It's just that he's not far up as far up the track as Jacob Harberts. And so interesting to see kind of the two Maconi cars splitting the strategy. The 64 running the fuel strategy game, going the long run, while we've got Jeff Maconi in the 03 taking the other route, saying, hey, you know what? We're going to split it up into 40 lap segments. I'm going to go all out. I'm going to use up my tires. I'm going to use up my right pedal down there and be a wheelman on this racetrack.
Yeah, be a wheelman. Indeed, the 64 machine has been quietly inside the top 5, top 3 here tonight on lap 131. Currently our race leader down the backstretch here. That 64 machine last pit on lap 77. Beginning to be the Tom Hanks and Castaway here, the last man on the racetrack here that has not headed down pit road.
Now it's going to be the interesting time, Will, okay? Because Jacob Harberts now is about 20 seconds back behind Joey Masevich. Now, Brandon Evans and Joey Masevich, these are our top 2 runners on the racetrack, right? Neither of these two have pit yet. Joey Masevich going through turn 2 currently. Joey Masevich looks like he's coming out of 4, going across start finish. Jacob Harbert's going down the back straightaway. So about a half of a racetrack difference between Masevich and Harbert's, but the timeline is about to cross. We're working about 65 laps left, 55 laps on the fuel stint. How much longer can Masevich go before he needs to come in and take the fuel so he can make it to the end?
Yeah, it's going to be the question that everybody wants to know the answer to right now as we're counting down the laps. 133, make it 134 on that scoring pylon as we dig down to corner number 1 here. Joey, we talked about it here. This is where we kicked off the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet. Here we ran those legend cars in the middle of this racetrack here. I used to go to all sorts of legend nights here. I used to see the Bandoleros, the legend cars, all those good things. I was supposed to drive a Bandolero car back in the day, Joey. I just couldn't fit in the car. I was a bit of a big boy back in the day. Looking back on it there, that'd be kind of fun to race around that little oval here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Now, I don't blame you one bit because I know that some of these junior level cars are tiny when they have the roofs on them, and reminds me of one of my good buddies, Rob Stout. Now, Rob, he's a road racer, but he's taller than me. I'm 6'2", so Rob's about like 6'3", 6'4", really tall, lanky kid, and I remember his dad shoved him in a Legends car down there at that Legends Oval, and watching him climb into that thing was a bit like watching a clown climb into one of those little tiny cars and then have 30 of them climb out. You know what I'm talking about, Will?
Oh, yeah. There's no catch net, folks, that are unfamiliar with the Legend Series cars, Bandoleros, things like that. You have to climb in through the roof on a lot of these cars. So if you're a little bit wider in the hip, so to say, or a little bit taller, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge getting in and out of that race car. So for those that aren't tall and a little bit wider, so no football players, no basketball players able to fit in these cars back in the day, Joey.
Actually, look at this on the racetrack. This is Jacob Reeves going underneath Guillaume Hainaut, and unfortunately, just things don't seem to be going the direction that the 68 wants them to today. You know, he started all the way up there in the second place position. Things looked very promising at the start of this race, but he's just kind of continued to fall throughout the course of tonight and all the way back down to the 7th place position currently.
Yeah, things were very, very good for the 68 machine to start out this race here tonight. Now slipping down the grid. And here tonight, Joey, here as we creep up to only 50 laps to go, we're getting into the late stages of this race. The 68 machine starting to lose that car when it matters the most.
All right, Will, we are at the crossover point here. Joey Masevich currently working lap 60 on this fuel stint right now, and I'm looking, I see about 61 laps remaining this time by as he crosses the start-finish line, which means that crossover point has officially happened. He should be able to make it on one more stop if he stops the next time by. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to run all out. You know, he is running at a slowed pace right now, but he is 10 seconds in front of Jacob Harberts right now.
Yeah, you can do exactly that right now as we're around 3 and 4. Still on that inside lanes. We watch this battle off of 2 right now down this backstretch here. Joey down to 3 and 4. We watch right now Jacob Harberts. Now he's starting to battle with another driver that hasn't headed down pit road. That's Brandon Evans right there inside the top 5.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, not Jeff Maconi. Joey Masevich is actually on pit road. He's going to relinquish the lead, doing the strategy that I thought he was going to do, 61 laps here on this fuel stint, and that's going to mean he's got to make it 60 laps here on this next fuel stint, and now it's up to Jacob Harberts. What's his strategy going to be? If I was going to guess, he's going to stretch it another 20 laps here in this fuel stint and then pit probably around that lap 160 mark.
Yeah, that's a good window there, Joey. Or I would think here you could push it to about 30 to go, maybe around 170, head down pit road. Make sure you watch that reshuffle happen. See what kind of window you're looking at there. Of course, you're in a mixed bag of drivers here whose windows are going to be a little bit different there across the board here as we're down to 3 and 4. So keep an eye out on that here tonight, Joey. I already spoke about when we started this race how this last pit stop would be the key factor in tonight's race. We're watching it play out here with about just over 50 laps to go.
Well, and crucially, Joey Masevich stayed on the lead lap on that pit stop of his. He came out, he's on the back straightaway. You see him right here, just coming out of frame, and that means he is in the safe zone right now. The strategy still on the table for that number 64. Now he has to run to that fuel number, run to that lap time number, and make sure that you don't burn off your stuff too early right now. And I'm seeing 31.0 lap time out of that number 64. And I know that when the number 80, Jacob Harbert, starts his runs, he's more around the 31.3s, 31.5s to start out, and then he really builds that speed in the last half. We'll see if the 64 can make it happen.
Yeah, see if the 64 can make it happen indeed right now. See if he has enough laps. Climb back up through the field right now. Jacob Harbert still leading the way in that 80 across the line here. 144 down to 1.
This is the 03 of Jeff Maconi that we were just watching back there on the screen, clicking through the field just a little bit. Find a car to watch here. This is the 03, and reason why we've got him on the screen right now is he's running in the second place position. Started all the way back there in 13th, has had a car to really be running up front the majority of the night. He's put it there, and currently on that same strategy as Jacob Harbert's, just not as far up the track like I mentioned a little bit before, but Currently making it work in that runner-up position. We'll see how it all plays out, though, because all of these cars, with the exception of Joey Masevich, have to do one more stop.
Yeah, one more stop indeed from the beautiful Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet here. Race number 6. We'll have one more race here as the drivers move up to the Cup Series next week here down the backstretch here. 146. Joey Masevich in the 64. We just watched him push the envelope. Is back up all the way up to about the 6th spot right now, trying to catch up to the 68 of Guillaume Henno around 3 and 4.
I think that the biggest thing that the 64 has to focus on is saving the tire. Because right now, he's just by himself on the racetrack. It's easy to abuse it, and it's easy to overstep that limit just a little bit. He's got to remember the threat is going to come at the end of the race from Jacob Harberts, or at least probably in the last 20 laps of the race from the number 80. So he's got to save his stuff. That way, when that time comes, he can use it up then and there rather than right now when it's not as big of an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, here's watch these intervals on the racetrack. Jacob Harberts in that 80 machine currently has about an 8-second gap on Jeff Maconi in the second spot, up 11 spots from the drop of the green flag. And you look at Jordan Corwin right there in that 8 spot. Good drive here tonight, up 3 spots from the green flag. Great job overall. Not a name we've called out a lot here this season. He's 17 seconds off the pace here tonight, Joey. And of course, you look down the grid a little bit more. The last car on the lead lap, you're looking at Perry Vance in the 85, 44 seconds off the pace. So this is these fanned out runs that I was talking about here, the Jimmy Johnson lines, if you will. You know, we remember back in the day, the early 2000s days, Jimmy Johnson here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. If he could get out to that lead position in that open air, he checked out with every race, whether it was in October or May, winning this race over and over again using this exact strategy.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like I know that you say Jimmy here at Charlotte because he's done it so many times, and almost like Harvick at Atlanta is another one. You know, just able to, once they're out front, read the clean air, read the racetrack, and you see here's the 39 just driving right around the number 8 car of Jordan Corwin. And the reason why the 39 can do that is because he is on tires that are only 6 laps old. The car that he drove around right there, Jordan, well, let's take a look. Jordan is on tires that are 26 laps old, so that is the difference in pace that you see physically on the racetrack right there. And look at them, they just drive right on away.
Yeah, right in that window that I was talking about there, Joey. I was thinking about a 20 lap window between Joey Masevich and the rest of the field. Well, right now you're looking at around a 17 lap window between Joey Masevich equipment and the rest of the field's equipment. You're looking at the pit laps around 120, 121, 122. Then Joey Masevich's last pit stop was just a little while ago on lap 139. Watch out for that difference you were just talking about, Joey, to close out this race.
Yeah, Joey Masevich, definitely the fastest car on the racetrack right now. And speaking of fast, we're just going to take a real fast break. Enjoy the sights and sounds of the Xfinity cars and the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Oh, and Jordan Corn just saves it again. Coming off of turn number 2, Jordan has had his hands full the last few laps. Got a little bit of a nudge from Jacob Reeves. Few laps go on lap 152, going into turn number 1, and put on a little bit of a drifting exhibit like you were mentioning, Will, earlier, except this was an Xfinity car at 145 miles an hour coming out of turn 2, and then just had another big save by himself. Kind of the same deal, but no help this time, and almost got collected into the inside wall, but thankfully keeps that number 8 car pointed the right direction. And to catch everybody back up to speed, Jacob Harbert's currently your leader out front. Jeffrey Maconi, second place. Joey Masevich, your first card that does not have to pit, running in the third place position.
Yeah, we look right now here, Joey here, 157. The driver's equipment starting to fail just a little bit. Tire wear now starting to creep up in some of these drivers' mind here. Of course, we talked about they're going to have to make one more pit stop before we close out the race here tonight. It's all about when, how, and who will head down here as we dig down to corner number 3.
And now, if I am right in predicting the strategy of the Jacob Harbert's Jeff Maconi duo, and really the rest of the field here, Jacob Reeves, Jordan Corrin, Dakota Bro, they're all kind of on the same strategy. The window opens up at 160. Now, technically, the window is open right now, but if you want to split it up in terms of equalizing out the speed in terms of all of the final stints, lap 160 is the marker we're looking for, and I think then pit road is going to become a very busy place here on the racetrack, and you've talked about it all night, Will. It's going to come down to the final stop.
Yeah, right now with about 40 laps to go here, we'll close out the race here with that one final pit stop. I will reshuffle of the grid, and then Joey, I'm predicting with about 15 to 20 laps to go, you really see the volume of this race turn up here as everybody will be racing with fresh equipment underneath them, giving the extra boost confidence, if you will. As right now, Jacob Harbert takes us off of 2 as our race leader.
Yeah, Jacob Harbert's coming across the start-finish line to cross over lap 160 of 200, and here we go. I think this is the time now that everything opens up. Got an eye on Jeff Maconi back there because he's got the number 39 of Brandon Evans going to scoot down to the inside, and that presents a little bit of a challenge if you're trying to get down to pit road. If you got a fast car behind you, you don't want him running you over on accident as you come down to pit road. And look at this. Jacob Harbert's the number 80 coming down pit road, getting it slowed down. And so important to stop on your marks. Don't throw away all that position that you earned out on the track for just a silly little mistake.
Yeah, you're already too far into this race right now with under 40 laps to go now in this race, creeping into the 30s now. As you see now, the 57 of Reeves will head down pit road here. Starting to see that last pit window for a lot of these drivers now creep into play.
Yeah, and I've been keeping my eye on the 80 on pit road here, and he took all 4 tires, which means he wants to use it up here at the end of this race. Now I've got my eye on Joey Masevich. He's coming around start-finish right now. Looks like Jacob Harberts will remain on the lead lap as he's already exited turn 2 and back up onto the racing line. He's still accelerating and getting up to speed while Masevich is exiting turn 2. Now, the chase is on, Will. 48 laps remaining. Can Harberts hunt down Masevich?
Chase is on indeed right now. It's 64 machine of Joey Masevich, now our race leader. You saw that strategy, the 64 played right there to take the lead. Now we see if this run can be the furthest run here. Going to be looking at around under 40 laps to go here, Joey. I believe the 64 can make it. Now whether or not he can put enough distance on the rest of the field, who will have fresh equipment here, closing out this race here off of 2 down the backstretch, creeping into 3. Just the timetable now. It's that sand dial, if you will. You flip it upside down. You watch the sand drop. Will Joey Musevich in the 64 have enough time here with just under 40 laps to go?
I totally agree. And to put it into perspective for everybody, Jacob Harberts is about 20 seconds, 22 seconds behind our race leader right now, and they're lapping at 32 seconds per lap. So he's about 2/3 of the way a racetrack behind our leader, and he only has about 35 laps to make up that gap. And we're going to see if the number 80, in fact, does have that long run speed at the end. However, long run isn't necessarily less than 40 laps, is it, Will?
No, not at all. A long run for some of these drivers here tonight. You're looking at how many laps you really make it to the finish here, Joe. You want to push the envelope. You want to gamble a little bit. So all those little calculations, all those little windows that we were talking about here, it's all about whether or not you want to take the checkered flag here tonight. And Joey, one thing that we forgot to mention in this broadcast, these drivers are racing for some cash money.
Yeah, they are racing for a little bit of cash money out there tonight indeed. Up for grabs is $150 presented from the Bank of Maconi to the winner here tonight. And not only the cash, but the points, because we've been mentioning the points championship all night, and there's over $800 in total prize pool that they're going to be racing for. They got a custom guitar that's going to be given away to the championship winner. It's not just tonight, it's that championship too.
Yeah, the championship indeed. You want to get that cash money right now. Joey Musevich trying to show us why he wants to get that cash money in his pocket. Of course, we talked about how Josh Cotto basically overshadowed here the first couple weeks of this series, racking up some good money in his pocket here, Joey. But now we're in those big money races here, a 200-lap race here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That has, in all intents and purposes, been dominated by the 64 machine of Joey Musevich. We'll see if he can close out the deal here as we creep up on about 30 laps to go.
Now, it seems like a little bit of an impossible task to make up nearly 3/4 of a lap to try to win this race in only 30-some laps. Now, you mentioned we're about 30 laps remaining, and the gap is only 16.5 seconds. Let's check timing and scoring. This lap, Jacob Harberts, 1.4 seconds faster than Joey Musevich, so it's only going to take him about half of the amount of laps that we have left in order to catch our leader.
Yeah, we'll see if that window can right now be closed, as Joey Musevich, I'm sure, is a man with a plan at the top of the grid, knows all those calculations, knows those intervals. We saw this strategy being laid out, if you so to say, there, Joey, at that second run, and we saw the pit stop there where Joey Musevich stayed out way longer than the rest of the field. Just to kind of calculate here, we talked about how he's going to have a 17-lap gap on the rest of the field. Do you think, Joey, he heads on pit road before that 17-lap gap just to continue that momentum through?
Yeah, no, I think Musevich is going to be out there for the rest of the race right now because he's only got still dwindling 14 seconds. I think that if we get a yellow flag, it's going to change things up dramatically. It can totally turn this race upside down for all of these competitors. So we'll just have to keep an eye out. If there's any water bottles laying out on the racetrack, maybe any debris out there that race control picks up. You know what I'm talking about, one of them NASCAR yellows.
Oh, the phantom cautions there, Joey.
Yes, you get the game. But until we see one of those, we gotta just play the normal playground rules out here, and that means Joey Musevich in the 64 leads this race. You see the number 42 of Kyle Wisner going underneath him. Now, Kyle only has 4 laps on his tires, even though he's back there in 9th position, actually getting his lap back from Joey Musevich, putting the 42 back into the lead lap category. And right now, that 64 is driving to a fuel number, driving to a lap time, trying to stop the bleeding of Jacob Harberts, making the inroads, now only 11 seconds back.
Yeah, 11 seconds back, still a long way on the racetrack, though, here, Joey. as we're on lap 172. Still a good bit of racing to go right now as we're down the backstretch down to 3 and 4. You see the line of Harberts is running there just a shade above that white line around the corner. I think, Joey, for him to find the speed, he has to dive that thing in there, almost touch the white line with those tires, find as much speed as possible.
Yeah, he definitely has to find the speed, but I would caution him a little bit. Just get what you need to. Don't overdrive the car because the gap that you're closing in right now, you're doing a good job with it. You're still pulling in 1 second per lap on our leader right now. You got 25 laps left and less than 10 seconds to go to make up. You're looking good in terms of your interval to catch the leader and then have an opportunity to pass them. Just stay smart with how you're driving that race car.
Yeah, and Joey, one thing that may have been overshadowed by Joey Macevich's drive here tonight, that we only have about 5 cars left on the lead lap here tonight.
Yeah, you're right. Now that we look at it, we were mentioning that nearly all of the cars were on the lead lap earlier that were still running, and now only 5 currently. And I think that just shows to you the pace that these front runners really have and the consistent pace that they've been showing all night tonight here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it's tough to keep up. And then we even have varying pit strategies. How do you keep up with 2 different pit strategies that are capable of winning this race?
Yeah, indeed. Right now, here as we keep an eye out on the 03 of Jeffrey Maconi, now back inside those podium positions here off of 2 of the 03. All by himself, though, here. Joey, the 3rd position is separated right now by about, looking at 11 seconds from 3rd to 4th.
Yeah, and actually running through the field, all of these cars are pretty separated out. We got now under 8 seconds between 1st and 2nd. We got 20 seconds between 2nd and 3rd. We got 30 seconds. Another 10 seconds between 3rd and 4th. And then we got multiple laps here between 4th and 5th. And then things are actually somewhat close between Jacob Reeves and Guillaume Hainaut. But there's a lap car separating that little bit of a battle there. So just kind of waiting to see how the end of the race plays out. And one thing that I'm noticing now that they're starting to creep up on the lap count, Will, the cars are starting to move around and get a little bit more loose on this racetrack again.
Yeah, because you're coming up on the tail end of those pit stops there. We talked about these drivers that were maintaining that pattern of those pit stops, if you will, Joey. The only driver that really didn't follow along, the outlier, if you will, was Joey Masevich, and that 64 machine was the last man standing there in that last run. Now the 64 machine now back up at the top of the grid. Of course, we talked about the gap between fresh equipment and old equipment. We'll see if that comes into play here with 23 laps to go.
And it looks like Jacob Harberts has slowed his in-run just a little bit on our leader. Now is only making up about 3/4 of a second per lap on Joey Masevich. So things are starting to level out a little bit between our 2 front players. However, the gap continues to shrink down. Now only 5.5 seconds between 1st and 2nd place with only 22 laps remaining. Can the 64 hang on for the win here? Looks like his fuel strategy game is coming into effect pretty well. Does the number 80 have enough tire and enough speed to catch him and drive around him and steal away this win and that $150 like you were mentioning, Will?
Yeah, $150 can go a long way here in iRacing as the race is still being led by the 64 Joey Masevich, which you see right now on the top of your screen here on Maconi Entertainment. Harberts right now, that gap is just ticking by now under 5 seconds here, down in the corner with 21 laps to go.
Under 5 seconds indeed. I'm seeing 4.6 seconds currently separating Joey Masevich and Jacob Harberts. And I actually see 2 lapped cars in between Harberts and Masevich. I wonder if that will come into play at all with Jacob Harberts having to run down our leader, because every second, every lap is crucial to this number 80 in order to catch our leader. And if he gets held up at all, that could be the game over.
It could be the game over indeed right now, as all Jacob Harberts can think about right now with 20 laps to go here, make it 19, is sticking to these lines. You can't start to drift from your thought here, Joey. You have to be laser focused. Just focus in on what you can do, hitting your exit points, your release points here, your brake points. So you creep up on this lap traffic, get it out of your way. There you go, to the inside of the 68, Guillaume Henno, whose race has just gone completely south here tonight. As we're still right on board with Jacob Harberts in that 80 machine trying to chase down Joey Masevich, as whose lead is now down to about looking at 4 seconds or so.
Yeah, just under 4 seconds, and Guillaume Hainaut definitely didn't give Jacob Harberts the easy way around. Jacob got held up a little bit coming off of turn 2 from that number 68, and Will, you mentioned it, we're under 20 laps to go, 18 laps remaining here out of the 200 that the drivers have stared down today, and Joey Masevich continues to try to put lapped cars in between himself and his competitor Jacob Harberts out there, and Jacob continues to try to chop down these lap times and make inroads into our leader, and 17 laps remaining. The gap still coming down, but only about a half second per lap. I wonder if the 64 can really pull out this strategy, because I was the biggest skeptic on this strategy. I thought for sure the 80 had this in the bag.
Yeah, you see the 80 now starting to run into some traffic. The 64, Joey Masevich, knew what to do there after experimenting. We talked about that as well here tonight, Joey. Experimented with that run, with those pit stops, to know exactly how to drive this car, how to handle this car here. As you start to feel the equipment leave you a little bit, you start to feel the car get a little bit more difficult to drive. He has experience with this early on in this race. Can he hold on here to close out this with 16 laps to go, down to 3 and 4?
Yeah, and Masevich comes out of 4 and wiggles the tail just a little bit, and this is going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Here comes Harberts. He's making his way. He got around the 39 of Brandon Evans, and now he's got to go to the high side of the racetrack to get around the 85 of Perry Vance. Perry Vance is all the way back there in the 10th place position, and making Jacob Harberts really work the hard way around the racetrack. This is not where Harberts wants to be. He's made all of his time down on the low side of the racetrack, and I think he's probably eaten up tire life that he doesn't want to, being up there in the middle of the racetrack. And now only one car separating Jacob Harberts from Joey Masevich, and that is Jacob Reeves, our 4th place runner, who Joey Masevich just put 1 lap down. Only 3 cars on the lead lap, Will.
3 cars left on the lead lap here with 14 laps to go. It's giving me flashbacks watching the Coca-Cola 600 here every May. It used to be 2 races here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway here. Joey used to have one in May and October, with 2 weeks of speed weeks in May for the Coke 600 and the All-Star race. If we go back to that, that would be great. But right now, Joey Masevich still leading the way in the 64.
And immediately, once he saw Jacob Harberts get back down to the low line, once he got by the 85 Perry Vance, he immediately started to make lap time again. And now we're under 2 seconds between Jacob Harberts and Joey Masevich for our lead. And I'm seeing we're going to be getting 12 laps remaining here. Things are starting to heat up at Charlotte.
2 laps to go, right? 12 laps to go right now. Things are starting to turn up just a little bit. The action's getting a little bit more crazier on the racetrack. He's going to ride on board with Jacob Harberts in that 80 machine off of 2 right now. He sees Joey Masevich in that 64 in his sights. He sees what he has to do to get around up to that here, Joey. But as we see right now, the 64 machine here on Maconi Entertainment is going to exit pit or turn 4. You see this huge run from the 80 off of 4.
Yeah, the 80's making good time once again. 32.3 out of Jacob Harberts, 32.8 out of our leader, so still making about a half second per lap and 11 seconds remaining. He's got that lapped car of the 57 of Jacob Reeves in between them, so he's got to clear the 57 pretty quickly here if he wants a shot to go up there and catch the 64. And I tell you what, if the 57 makes life difficult for Harberts, Once again, going to be an uphill climb to catch Misevich. We're going to see how this all plays out here on the racetrack. As looks like Harbert's going to go to the low side of the racetrack in the 57 of Jacob Reeves with a big wiggle in one. Opens up the door, and that's exactly what Jacob Harbert's want, is an easy pass. Now really 10 laps remaining. Less than 1 second between our top two.
Yeah, to me, that looked like a little conquistador Olay from the 57 of Reeves there to let that raging bull of Jacob Harberts in the 80 machine by right now on the racetrack as he's trying to reel in the 64 Joey Masevich down into 1 and 2. Huge run from Jacob Harberts in that 80. Looks like he's going to catch him here. Joey might catch him on the entry at 3 and 4.
And I see where Jacob Harberts is really making the time is on that entry speed. And you're right, he's able to just carry so much more speed into the corner, which then translates throughout the rest of the lap time. And here you see, coming off of turn 4, got a pretty big run on our leader. Now looking at 8 laps remaining. Is he going to be able to get to the inside of Joey Masevich? Which way does the 64 go? Looks like he's trying to take up the whole racetrack.
And the 64 right now has to do everything to hold on in this position. If you have to rub doors, try to slow down the 80 as much as you can. Once that 80 clears the 64, Joey, it's sad to say, but the 64's race will all but be signed, sealed, and delivered. He won't have the equipment to catch that 80 as the 80 now goes to the inside here off of 4. We have a side-by-side battle to the start-finish line, and there we see that speed of the fresh equipment is going to clear the 64 to the inside. New race leader, Jacob Harberts, down to 1.
What a move out of Jacob Harberts. He looked high going into turn 3, said, Joey Masevich, you know what? You take the clean air on the bottom. I'm going to over-under you. And just like that, the number 80 has his pit strategy work out for the better. And back out to the front is Jacob Harberts. And now all he's got to do is set sail, hit your marks, and it's going to be collecting $150 as long as things don't go sideways on him.
Yeah, right now, Jacob Harberts in that 80 machine is hoping for the opposing team not to return that kickoff after scoring the game-winning touchdown, because right now the 80 machine is down the backstretch with 6 laps to go. Going to increase this lead. We see what happens when cars get out in that clean air here. Joey can really separate. The 64 machine, Joey Masevich now starting to get a little wiggle in these corners. That could be very dire for his race chances.
Well, and it just looks like the 64 has really fallen off of a cliff here these last couple laps. He was turning mid-32 second lap times, and the last 2 laps are 33 seconds plus. And I'm also noticing he's on 56 laps on his tires right now. I wonder if they have just fallen off the cliff finally, and that just means less pressure for Jacob Harberts as he continues to drive away.
Yeah, right now the 80 machine's going to make it 4 laps to go across this front stretch here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway here, just like you say, the Penn State or the Ohio State University. This is the Charlotte Motor Speedway right now as the 80 of Harberts takes us off at 2 down the backstretch.
And I really want to give props to Joey Masevich here, because when he tried to make this 60-lap stint strategy work, I thought, no way in heck is he going to be able to make this work. I thought the 80 for sure had his number, but we saw through the lap cars, through the racing out on the racetrack, the 64 had a winning strategy. Let's go back and look at the next car down. Where is it? Jeff Maconi, 15 seconds behind Joey Masevich. So the 64 had a winning card, but Jacob Harberts had the winning car and speed out there. 2 terrific strategies. Looks like the Harberts way is going to pay off tonight.
Yeah, Harberts in that 80 very strong out of the gate here tonight. One of the fastest cars, I'd say, in the mix, Joey, but here tonight with 2 laps to go now, down into 1. Seeing a lot of this racing here tonight, very fanned out. This is what you see at Charlotte, Joey. We've talked about how this racetrack very opens the door for a unique style of racing. If you can be a clean air driver, you can set sail, like you just said a little while ago, and the 80's doing just that, down to 3.
Well, and I know that Jacob Harberts is going through turns 3 and 4. Let's get up on him right now, because he is looking for Barney, the flag man right now. He sees the white flag, and because he just cross start finish and that white flag is out, That means it will be the final lap. No more green-white checkered attempts in this race right now. All Jacob Harberts has to do is concentrate on keeping it off of the wall through 2 more turns, and he is going to see that checkered flag being displayed from the flagman. It's been 200 laps here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway tonight. It's been multiple pit stops, but ultimately it's the number 80 taking home the checkered flag in the win.
Yeah, big win out of Jacob Harberts. And 80 machine, great job here tonight with that pit strategy, making sure he was the top dog here tonight, had the speed to get around the 64, and when he did, he checked out and took the checker flag here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Here I know that it says the 98 on the screen, but on timing and scoring, it is definitely the number 80. You see it scrolling across right there. Jacob Harberts, your winner here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the 2023 Drivers Gauntlet on Maconi Entertainment. And we're going to keep the camera right here and hopefully get some good sights, sounds, and Will, you know about those delicious smells of donuts.
I do know the smell of donuts. You're going to watch Jacob Harberts burn it down here. No better place to watch donuts being made here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. You can creep down almost to that catch fence here on that front stretch. Beautiful sights here on the front stretch.
Well, and just a single donut out there. Apparently, he didn't pack enough donuts to share with the rest of the field. And with that, we're going to get our official results here on the screen. Jacob Harberts taking home the win. Joey Masevich, a valiant effort, making that long fuel strategy game almost take home. There, the second place, and then Jeff Maconi there, third. Jacob Reeves, your first car, 1 lap down, fourth place. Brandon Evans in the top 5. Jordan Corrin, sixth place. Kyle Wisner, 7th. Dakota Bro, 8th. Guillaume Hayneau, 9th. And Perry Vance in the number 85 comes home 10th.
Look at the rest of the lineup right there in 11th. You look at, can't really see it there, but I
got you here, Will. I got you. It's Carson Lucas there in the 11th spot. Blanca Gonzalez, with those earlier problems, only is able to complete 142 laps, and then Jason Hurdle, Mark McNutt, and Mike Scarborough just had multiple problems early on and never really saw the checkered flag out there. And we're going to give it just a couple more minutes here, see if we get any of our drivers into the interview booth here, see if we can catch a word with them to see how the race went. But Will, let me get your thoughts on tonight, and what did you think about the natural progression and getting these drivers into the Xfinity cars now?
I think what we saw here tonight is what these drivers are most comfortable in. I'd have to say, Joey, I think a lot of the races building up to this point here tonight, it was a lot of more getting comfortable with the race cars they were in, feeling themselves out, a lot of more beating and banging, a lot more caution flags. Here tonight, Joey, I think we saw a lot more of the field comfortable in the equipment here. That's why we saw a lot more fanned out racing here, a lot more open air racing.
Yeah, a lot of drivers spend a lot of time in these Xfinity cars, and especially at this specific venue at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it paid off tonight with the racing that we saw on the racetrack. And actually looks like we've got our race winner, Jacob Harberts. He's joining us now in the commentary booth. Jacob, congratulations on bringing home the bacon.
Thank you. That was a long one for sure.
It was a long one. And let's talk about the 2 different pit strategies that we saw between you and Joey Masevich. Now, when Masevich decided to stretch it for 60 laps, I thought, no way in heck is he going to do that. And sure enough, here I am talking to you in victory lane.
I'll be honest, I was thinking the same exact thing. I thought that Joey was kind of relying more on a caution. I didn't really know exactly how long we could stretch it, but I was thinking it was somewhere in the range of about 55, 56 laps. So in my head, I was thinking, if he was going to one stop that last run, that he was going to have to save quite a bit of fuel, which would be possible to make it the distance. But I was thinking he was going to lose so much time saving fuel that, if it stayed green, that I'd have plenty in the clear. I still had a decent sized lead there at the end, but it was a bit closer than I thought.
I agree. It was a bit closer than I thought it was going to be at the end of the race. When you were taking out a second and a half there at the beginning, but even besides that point, I noticed that you had a car on the long run that had more speed than the rest. Now, was that due to you saving tire at the beginning of the run, or was it mainly due to the setup you had underneath you?
Uh, really just saving tires. I mean, overall, I'm not super fast in these cars, for hot lap speed, but saving tires is the name of the game with these long races. You can't go all out in the beginning. Some of the drivers in here were, they were really fast for 20 laps or so. But once we get past that point, those who did save their tires, it really shows. So I was lucky that the race only had one caution, so I could get a good chance for those long runs. I was, if there was a caution there at the end, Joey would have had that extra set of tires, and I would have been done for because I was out of tires once I pit that last time around, 40 to go.
Well, thankfully for your case, it did stay green, and we are chatting with you here in Victory Lane and actually looking forward. You took home $150 tonight here for winning this race. Are we going to see you at Daytona next week in the next gen cars for the possibility of taking home 250?
That's the plan. I think I'll be there.
Awesome. Well, that is Jacob Harbert's your race winner. And before I let you go, anybody you want to say hi to?
Yes, I'd like to thank all the guys at Team VLR and CFM Esports for all the work and help that they provide for me.
Well, Jacob Harbert's taken home that checkered flag here tonight, and actually looks like we have second place runner standing by with Will Tiller.
Yeah, catching up with our second place finisher, Jacob Harbert's in that 80. Or no, Joey Masevich. I'm sorry, I got a little confused there. Joey Masevich in that 64 machine, second place finisher. We wish it was Jacob Harbert's finish in second, but Joey here, we saw you trying to creep along with that lead here on that long run. Take us through your race here tonight.
Yeah, that was a long, grueling race. Let's see. Started on the pole, put down the fastest lap I had entire practice session, right when it mattered most. Recognized that I could take advantage of the clean air. And the guys behind me, and came up for a pit stop, realized I was burning the heck out of my right front overdriving it. So I regrouped, turned it around. Couldn't beat Jacob on the long runs, so I figured the only chance I had was to beat him on. I identified that we were just barely in the fuel window for one stop when we took the green, and managing my tires, trying to keep pace. Ended up bringing it home, running out of fuel, going into one right after taking the checkered. Almost paid off.
Almost paid off, indeed. But when you saw the 80 machine of Jacob Harbert's creep up to you, did you realize that maybe that this race victory was slipping out of your hands, so to say, and how much did you battle with the 80 until you realized that the 80 was just going to be too fast for you?
I knew in by the time he was going to catch me, he was going to first. So it wasn't really going to be the distance on the track, the cars in between, and I was a little more shocked.
Yeah, definitely here as a 64 machine of Joey Masevich, our second place finisher here tonight. Joey, you go into that last race of this season here. Your last chance to maybe win that championship there. Not sure how much you are in those point standings, but Joey, can't wait to see you next week here in this series, a season finale in those Cup cars. What do you think your chances are in those?
Cup cars at Daytona, that's definitely one of my strengths. And I've got nothing but confidence going into that race. Hopefully, the way the points lay out, I can end up enough that I might be able to push Jeff to the win and still steal it. So we'll see how that shakes out. But excited for next week.
Yes, sir. Well, Joey Misevich in that 64 machine. Before we let you go here tonight, is there anybody you wanted to shout out or any sponsors that made this race possible for you?
Maconi Setup Shop, Maconi Esports for putting me, having me as prepared as I am, and putting together these great events. Bruzy USA for my fantastic sim racing gloves, making the driving just a little bit easier so I can focus on what matters. And Sim Racer movie, go check it out on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, Joey Misevich in that 64 machine. It's taking place here tonight in Charlotte in the Xfinity car. Joey, we appreciate you taking the time with us here, my man.
Thank you.
Well, looks like we're going to have one more interview to join us here, and that's going to be our third place finisher, Jeff Maconi, there in the 0-3. Now, Jeff, I know that it's not the top step, but it's the last car on the lead lap. That's got to count for something because the front two set a torrid pace.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a crazy pace by, I knew right out the gate, Joey, when he just was pulling away from the field, I was like, he's got good long run speed, and then Harberts as well was really, really strong on the long run. I know my weakness is on tire saving. No matter what I run or where I go, it's going to be a weakness on tire saving. So I knew that going in, and to come out of it third, I'm very happy with that. It's a great point tonight, and in a series that is 7 races long and is all about the points, I am in contention for the championship after 7 races, and there's like 5 of us that can all still, I mean, I think there's probably 10, 12 people that can still mathematically win it, but yeah, it's going to be crazy at Daytona with the points and everything. So I'm very, very excited for that. And I'm probably going to, I think I'm going to be like probably second in points. Joey's in the lead, I think, now. So we'll see how it all washes out. It's going to be really fun at Daytona because Joey is one of my best friends and a teammate. So I have to beat him by 2 spots now at Daytona. So he has to push me to a win, and someone has to be between us as well. It's going to be insane.
Well, I'll be there to watch that one for sure, because I think if it came down to Misevich or Maconi, I don't know, maybe we got to get behind closed doors, Will, and start the betting pool that's going to be going between these two out there. But
yeah, I'm down.
Jeff, before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to say hi to, thank, and just give a shout out to? Because I know these events are a lot to put on, and you do a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're crazy. There's so much that goes into it behind the scenes, and I'm so thankful for everyone involved. Everyone at Maconi Setup Shop, Maconi Entertainment, Maconi Competizone. I gotta thank you guys for doing a great job on the broadcast tonight. So it's a real team effort behind the scenes. Joey Misevich, William Hale are 2 huge helps to me day in and day out, helping make decisions for the company. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. So I'm very excited with how everything came out. I'm really, really happy with this series, and I'm very excited to do it again next year. Gotta thank Brandon Davis. He does an amazing job as our race control, and he's a lot of fun to hang out with as well. Great guy, but does a phenomenal job as our race control, keeping everything in line and calling the cautions and keeping everything good. I have to thank all of my sponsors, Bruzy Racewear, the Sim Racer Movie, WSMN 1590, Ron the Snack Guy, Victory Sim. Just massive, massive thank yous to all of them that make this possible. So we'll move on to next week. I'm gonna try my hardest. You know, I'm organizing the event, but I've been competing week in and week out, and I've already got the trophy and the custom diecast all set up, ready to go. So if they end up at my house, I'm gonna be real happy about it. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a really great time.
Yeah, as long as the Bank of Maconi doesn't have to pay shipping, all the better. Am I right?
Yeah, well, something like that, right? It still costs a good bit, but it's worth it. And if I can win an event, I am happy with it. I don't get to do much league racing anymore, so I take what I can.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you very much for all of the work that you do. And that's actually going to wrap it up for tonight. We want to thank tonight's race sponsor, Maconi Setup Shop, as well as our broadcast partner, Maconi Competizone. Calling the action tonight was myself, Joey Atterbury, alongside Will Tiller in the booth, and Adam Flieger producing. Don't forget, round 7 of the Drivers' Gauntlet is 1 week from today with the next-gen cars at Daytona to crown that champion like Jeff was just talking about. As always, we would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning into tonight's racing action, and a special shout-out, of course, goes to the entire staff for their work in bringing this racing action to you. Be sure to stay tuned to all of our social media pages, and we hope to see you at our next event. This has been a production of Maconi Entertainment, and we wish you all a good night.